Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Thursday, August 14th, 2025. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and Change. This podcast covers the national champions. Great show for you today. Mark Porter again flying solo as the Dean is finishing up a little family jaunt to a exotic water-based location. And we can't wait to have him back as football season gets ready to really kick off here. We are less than 2 weeks from the start of high school football season here in Ohio, which is awesome. From Mark today, we're going to discuss some of the rankings that just came out for the class of 2028. I know some of you aren't keen on recruiting these days, but know this: the top players in the state of Ohio will always be a priority for Ohio State. We'll see if they can come through on those, but they've got some names and we're going to share them with you. First, got to let you know about Gooder Sunglasses, one of our best sponsors and really something you should be taking advantage of. These are sunglasses without the stress, I like to call them, because they started only $25 a pair, and they've kind of perfected the nice, durable approach to this. 1-year warranty, 30-day free returns. Get 3 pairs. If you lose one, your money still. Lightweight and comfortable, 100% polarized, no slip, no bounce, and they got plenty of choices, colors, and sleek styles. And a deal: Bucknuts Morning 5 listeners get free shipping. Gooder.com, GOODR.com/Bucknuts, and use code Bucknuts for free shipping. Like I said, go check them out. Excuse me. There's plenty of cool styles to choose from. The Grand Poobah Mark Porter is here with no Gooder sunglasses, just straight vision. And now he's getting his assistance from the glasses. Marcus, are you ready for the spotlight again? Tuesday, I know you had to sleep the rest of the day if you were carrying the Dean's bags here.
Yeah, I wish Gooder had some cheaters, some really cool cheaters. I think they're missing a big market for guys like me that can't see 6 inches in front of their face anymore. But yeah, this is all about 2028 today. We have a little video for you. We have plenty of Ohio guys to talk about. I have some guys that were left off the list that I'm kind of shocked that we'll talk about those guys. So, yeah, missing the Dean, but we'll make it. We'll slog through it.
So what Mark is referring to, yesterday, 24/7 Sports came out with basically their initial overall rankings for the class of 2028. So do the math in your head. And what we're going to talk about is the guys from Ohio. It's pretty impressive, actually. There are 3 guys in the top 100 from Ohio. Elijah Hall, the running back out of Tampa Blake that we discussed, who's the only commitment in Ohio State's class right now, is in the mix. He's also ranked. And like Mark said, we're going to go over these guys here. First, let me run through the rankings and let you know where these guys are. I'm going to mention one other player, and then I'm also going to be able to tell you guys the original kind of VIP vibe on these guys, courtesy of the assorted 24/7 Sports experts here. But the first name you need to know is number 9, and that is Jamir Weiss out of Trotwood, Madison, obviously here in the Gem City. And I want to read you what they say about Mr. Weiss real quick here. Okay. Trotwood, Madison defensive lineman Jamir Weiss is the younger brother of 2022 defensive lineman Jamal Weiss Jr., who started his career at South Carolina before transferring to Marshall, and 3-star defensive lineman Jamarcus Weiss, a class of 2026 Purdue commit. On the recruiting front, Weiss landed his dream offer from the Ohio State University, but is still waiting on a huge offer from Oregon. In addition, he'd love to add offers from Penn State, Florida, and Michigan. So let's talk Jamir Weiss, the highest rated defensive tackle from Ohio since, I'd have to look that up, but tell us what you know about him, what you agree with, don't agree with, where you project him, put him in context of other guys you've looked at. Jamir Weiss, our top-rated 2028 Ohioan.
Well,
let's
Jamir,
not hold on a second. Yeah. Let's not go to the video until we've gone through everybody, and that way we'll talk about it that way. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I don't have video of Jamir because I didn't really have the video going at the Trotwood Showcase, but he's the only one I didn't have video of today. And what's funny is when I walked up upon the Trotwood, setting or whatever, I was looking for his older brother first. I had heard about him as an 8th grader. I had, heard he was playing as a freshman, but, I'm not expecting, that type of presence. But I literally thought he was his brother for about a half hour. Okay, because he was the bigger of the two. Jamir was his brother. But, you're looking at him and you're going, okay, there's the big brother, there's the little brother. And then one of the coaches says, no, that's Jamir. And you say, wait, which one's Jamir? And they say that this one. And you're like, wait, but he's the younger one. Okay, so when his brother's a 3-star headed to Purdue, and you look at the younger brother and you say, oh, he's already tracking pretty well beyond where his brother's at. He's bigger, got some explosion. I mean, there's videos of him, in the basketball thing. He's really athletic, went to the Ohio State camp. I know Bill checked him out there, and I know Bill's probably sitting there watching us going, oh, I want to tell you what I saw. But you're seeing an absolute freak for a young kid. And all he's going to do at Trotwood is get better and better. Those coaches are going to push him. He's going to be at every camp, combine, setting to compete. So, yeah, we're going to be hot after the Trotwood prospect early in the year. So I do not disagree in any way with the ranking here.
Yeah, Trotwood does a great job. There's a lot of talent there, and they do a good job of getting the guys who are possible scholarship type athletes onto the football team. Basketball team is also tremendous. Here's this guy's not from Ohio, but I'm quickly going to read this and move on to the next name because it's one everyone's going to want to hear about. The number 10 overall player in the class is from the Philadelphia metropolitan area, and his name is Jet Harrison, and that name should be familiar. I'm going to read the entrance here on him. It's going to be tough to beat the Ohio State for Philadelphia St. Joseph's receiver Jet Harrison. The brother of Buckeyes great Marvin Harrison Jr. is already being heavily pursued by Ryan Day and Brian Hartline. Nebraska and Oregon can make it interesting, but in the end, the pull to Columbus might be too much for teams to overcome. Agreed. By the way, top elite receiver is not something that has been hurt in recruiting by the new era of recruiting, especially at Ohio State. We're locked and loaded through 2 more classes there. All right. To take it to another level, Mark, the number 17 overall player in the class and the next Ohioan up is Cincinnati Taft wide receiver Lorenzo McMullen. I'm going to read the entrance for him. Cincinnati Taft wide receiver Lorenzo McMullen is the cousin of Kentucky defensive lineman McKees Humphrey Grace. On the recruiting front, McMullen is waiting for his dream offer from the Ohio State University. If and when the Buckeyes offer, they'll be tough to beat. McMullen's mother is from Columbus, which helps the in-state powerhouse as well. The schools on his offer list doing well currently include Cincinnati, Indiana, and Kentucky. Interesting, Lorenzo McMullen, we know about wide receivers here, Mark. Is Lorenzo McMullen the next up in Ohio?
He certainly has the body for it, and he certainly had the showcase for it, and we do have video of that. I should have prefaced the first thing we said. We're talking about 2028 players who were freshmen last year. So a lot of these kids we're talking about have burst onto the scene early, and this doesn't in reference to Lorenzo or anyone, but the earlier you do recruiting, the more room there is for error and judgment like that. So before you fire on a kid and put him on a list like this, he's got to be vetted pretty well, which speaks very highly of the kids on this list. Lorenzo is one of these kids that the way these freshmen are actually players is they look like seniors. A lot of these, Jamir Brown last year looked like a senior as a freshman once he got on the field. Lorenzo, when I saw him live, take a picture of him, you're like, oh, that's probably one of their seniors. Yeah. No, it's a freshman out there. And then you check a look at the highlight tape, you put the showcase together and the offer list, and you have the confidence to put him on a top 100 in the country list. Very impressive. I expect to see more out of him. I'd like to see a time on him before I would say he's an Ohio State guy, but he is certainly stock up, pointed in the right direction. And I see Mika has the wide receiver for Lemons, who may outgrow receiver and become a linebacker. But he's one of my favorite players in the class of 2028 at Glenville. So before we say this receiver is the best, I think it's just saying that the ilk and the talent is there for these guys. The offer list will sort themselves out in the coming years.
All right, I'm going to go quickly through other guys who are in the top 32 because they got write-ups. Now, there's no more Ohio guys in here, and we'll get to the last Ohioan in the top 100, and we'll also talk about, of course, Blake running back Elijah Hall, the only commitment. But for the first 32 guys, like we did with McMullen and Weiss and Chet Harrison, actually, they did a little entry because 32, as you know, is 24/7 Sports does it. 32 is the number of picks in the first round, and they will finish the class always with 32 5-stars to kind of mimic that and forward. So I want to give you the names of the other guys in the top 32 who your Buckeyes were mentioned with, so that you can put this on. If you're like Mika, you can start diving into the film here, or Lord knows what else you guys do. Number 22 overall, Kellen Hall, a defensive tackle from Louisville Christian Academy. Watch out for Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Then you've got, as I move down here, number 26, safety, Giovanni Tuggle from Georgia, safety. Is he related to Jesse Tuggle? I don't know. I looked that up and couldn't seem to figure that out. He wants offers from Ohio State, Miami, and Ole Miss. My guess is he'll get it. And the next name you need to know here is interesting. One of the things that 24/7 wrote about, and for those of you who are getting up there, like Mark himself, there's the Harrisons. There's other names in the class that you will recognize. Number 32 is wide receiver Jaylen Adai, son of former NFL first rounder Joseph Adai, LSU running back who played with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. Yep. Teams to watch moving forward: Texas, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Houston, and the Ohio State University. So know those names, commit those to memory, or just go to the drop-down menu on 2028 and go read about it. All the information is there for you. All right, so we had 9, Jamir Weiss, 10, Jet Harrison, who was not technically an Ohioan, but will we all be surprised if Jet Harrison follows in the footsteps? Doubtful. It's doubtful to be surprised. Lorenzo McMullen at number 17, and then we have to scroll down here. Number 65, Elijah Newman Hall from Blake, Elijah Hall, 65, listed as an athlete. And you're going to see more athlete designations earlier on because guys haven't really, as Mark said, this is just after their freshman year, so some guys may be positionally up in the air. The last Ohioan on the list, as I get through here, number 88, Judah Blair, linebacker from Lakota West. Now, we've talked about Judah a lot because he flies for a linebacker recruit. As a freshman, he went pretty far in the state track 100 race. I'm not sure if he was at states, but he was one of the fastest players in his league. And you're talking Lakota West is a monster high school. So that kind of speed out of a 6'1", 200-pound linebacker prospect is certainly spectacular. Mark, your thoughts on Judah Blair, and then we will get to your video after an ad. Go ahead, sir.
When they do the 100 down in Columbus for the state championships, I'd like to know how many guys on that podium are linebackers. What's the over/under? 1.5?
Yeah,
you know,
0.5. Blair's going.
Yeah, I mean, and then what's the over/under on guys over 200 pounds? 1.5 again? I mean, not to...
Then do the age. He was a freshman.
So
it's triple whammy.
those are called curve breakers. If that guy's in your class, like nobody else is getting an A now because he got the A and everybody else is expected to be on his level. But yeah, not to bang on track guys, but they're usually 160, 170. They're 5'9". They're little guys that just fly. They don't have a lot of density to them. That's what usually makes them so lightning quick. And some of them aren't even football players because their frames are so frail and built for track. And the point of that is this kid is not built for track. He's built for football. And all he's missing is a couple game films from his sophomore year, and his offer list is already outstanding. It should go off the charts. We do have video of him. He does stand out like a sore thumb because he is so fast and he is so explosive. You just have to put it all together. There wasn't to get on the field as a freshman at Lakota West. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But as a sophomore, I'm sure they're going to have a role for him, much like Cam Thomas started his freshman year, or his freshman and sophomore year, just as a pass rusher. I could see Judah doing something like that. But I could also see him rising up this list in a hurry. But again, these guys are freshmen, and a lot of them really don't have a lot of tape. You're doing it off of measurables and height, weight, speed things, and and you wonder how many of them what their actual age is. Some of them may be a little older. Sometimes these kids are just the ones that won puberty, and have come out of the gates ahead, and there may be some leveling off. And I always Debbie Downer here sometimes when I bring reality to the podcast, but when I do my freshman rankings, and we're going to get into my Ohio freshman rankings, so I'm going to fully disclose this, make a lot of mistakes. There's kids that look really good, and a couple years later, this is one of the biggest sins. I never want to move a kid down. So that tells me don't pre-anoint kids God or Jesus, and you won't ever have to pull back the reins on them. So I'm real cautious with freshman rankings, and I know 24/7 vetted these guys, and the offer list. The colleges vetted these guys on that top 100 list because the offer list on these kids is outstanding. But I'm sure once Dan does a break, we'll have a teaser.
Yep.
Best Ohioan left off the list.
I'm into it, Mark. That's also a really nice little window there into how you do the rankings. Dropping players when they're young like this, you certainly don't want to do that just because it may have a negative impact, and that's not what you're in the game for. So that totally makes sense. Plus, you don't want their parents blowing up your site, and they will. Don't think they won't. All right, don't. I know we could have a digression on parents that would probably get me fired. So let's not do that. Let's hold that. Mark and I could put out a book about parents. Believe me on this.
We both may be in the book. I may write a chapter on Dan. He might write a chapter on me.
Hey, I'm talking about the ones that weren't successful.
No, we kid about that, but
we kid because we love.
Being a parent with a student athlete is a totally different podcast.
It is, and yeah, I don't even. It's not anyway. All right, I lose sleep. Let's talk about Brunt Work Boots, who are another tremendous sponsor here. Do I have that one up there? I think I do. Yeah. Look at this thing, man. First of all, they sent me this fire hat, and I've told you guys, I like to have the hat on that everyone kind of looks at and is like, wait a minute, who? I used to wear a UC Santa Cruz Banana Slugs hat in college just to throw people off the scent. Look at these Brunts. These are fire. Even for guys like me, when they want to look like they can hang out with guys like Mark, who are big and tough and strong. And I'm built more for skill work. You've got to hand it to founder Eric Gerard. He grew up blue collar and started Brunt Workwear for his buddies because they kept telling him big brands had stopped listening and hadn't changed their boots in 100 years. So for a limited time offer now, our listeners will get $10 off at Brunt when you use code Bucknuts at checkout. And Brunt stands behind what they make. You can wear them to work. If they're not right for you, send them back. I don't know any other brand doing that. That's a company that believes in their product. Brunt are comfortable right out of the box, too. That's key. Most other boots require significant break-in period or time. Like I said the other day, I used to wear my dad's old school Timbs, and it was like wearing a cardboard box on your feet. No dice. And Brunt isn't just about work boots. They've got a full range of high-performance gear for tough jobs. Actually, really trendy stuff. So very impressive. And like I said, for a limited time, our listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use code Bucknuts at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, BRUNT workwear.com, and do us a favor and tell them it was from this show. All right, Marcus, let's get to the 2028 video. This is stuff that we can bring you that no one else can, and we are proud of it. So I'm going to give you control of the show here. You get rocking, and then we will go back to the top and answer all your questions after that. Marcus, take it away.
I don't think enough people comment about my Buckeyes floating in the sky there for that logo.
Yeah.
But neither here nor there. This is due to Blair. You can see the size of him. That did not look like a track guy. This is Lorenzo McMullen, the receiver. And you can see by his size, too. He's really big. So when people said, is he going to be the number one receiver? Put athlete on him because he's going to be great on defense. He was doing backpedaling drills. Could he possibly grow into a linebacker or something? I mean, these are freak athletes right now that are
just thicker than I thought he'd be.
Yeah.
Thicker.
Okay.
Thicker.
Here's the first guy that what is 24/7 Sports doing? How is Brighton Feaster not in the top 100? I mean, he has an offer list that's out of control. He looks like a college sophomore. So, yeah, watch for him to be the first guy added to that list next year. And he's playing linebacker, him and his brother both. So, Matthew Bernard right here is running right next to Adam Guthrie, the Clemson commit. That's a heck of a good-looking freshman lineman right there. But I know we kind of talked about him when they did the pro day at Miami Trace there. But when we're starting to talk about guys that have offers and look good right away, he was one of them. We're going to go to a few guys. He had a few long clips there because we were kind of pairing him with Adam Guthrie to prove that, yeah, here's a freshman that's running like a senior. And like I said before, that's usually the ingredient that gets all these guys looked at. We talked about the Chillicothe kid that's an athlete that started as a freshman, already has a handful of MAC offers. Cartier Legon, I'm going to blow his name every time I say it because I keep thinking it's Cartier. I want to make him like French or something. That's my own problem. I'll get over that. But he's played receiver, plays tailback, plays safety, has a body. Dan said an athlete. This kid from Lakota West here, Narvaez, Jordan, is a monster. Look how big number 44 is. He's not a future left tackle for somebody. Braylon Dorn at Middletown, a freshman pass rusher. Look at the speed on this kid and the size on this kid as a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm geeking out right now. And these are names that Mika doesn't even know yet. So we're giving homework out. Brock Ballman, Westerville Central, another big-time guy that, as a freshman play a little bit. Yeah, I mean, he's all arms and knees right now moving around, but that'll refine itself, and, he'll kind of play himself into a role. But these big guys that are 6'5" and 6'6" as freshmen, they're the genetic freaks of the future. And, we really don't spend a lot of time watching a lot of this film because, yeah, it is like a piece of clay that needs to be molded. And, yeah, is that the biggest broad jump in the world? No. But also at Westerville, Gavin Schneider, you could tell he moves a little bit better, but he's just not as big. He's a little quicker, a little faster, a little more explosion. Look for them to have a great side of their offensive line for the next couple of years. I think we have one or maybe two more players here to look at. Two quarterbacks, actually. Kai Graham at Huber Heights, Wayne. Guess who's throwing the Jamir Brown this year? This is the luckiest 2028 kid in the state right now because he has the best receiver in the state. And then the other quarterback we're going to look at is Kenneth McCall over at Westerville. He's been offered as a defensive end linebacker already. He's working out a quarterback that day. So there are the guys we had some video of to kind of get your juices flowing on 28. There are guys on my list for 2028 guys that I didn't get video of this summer, but we probably need to talk about some other kids that are going to be Ohio State targets as we go on. The first one is that Amir Lemon from up at Glenville. Boy, he's 6'4", 205 pounds as a freshman, playing receiver, and much like Lorenzo McMullen, could have a linebacker or frame to play safety or something like that. Let's see, Jaquan Gibson up at Glenville, same thing, another freshman. So if you're looking for the two pipeline guys up at Glenville, those would be the names we're talking about. Marquise Ray at Pickerington North down in Columbus is an outstanding receiver, defensive back athlete. Dan, I'll go forever with this here, but if you want to stop me, I'll stop. Yeah, go ahead.
I got one for you. I'll throw it up there from Mika. Excited to see what Rain St. Clair does too. Of course, Rain St. Clair is the younger brother of Tavian St. Clair, the Ohio State freshman. Rain also at Bell Fountain, class of 28. I saw Rain in person in his last basketball game of his freshman year and he was on the varsity. I think he was just taxi squad. He was up there. He looks great. I mean, for a freshman, put it this way, if you would have walked into the gym, watch Bell Fountain working out or going through the layup lines, and someone said to you, which one in there is Rain St. Clair, you wouldn't have needed the program. Now, Bell Fountain did fall to the mighty Oakwood Lumberjacks, led by my son. But anyway, I will say this. You want to talk eye test, and you want to talk in fact, I was discussing Rain St. Clair. People were asking me about him at the game, and someone walking by me is like, "Are you talking about my cousin?" And I said, "You better believe I am." And then we were off from there. But he looks great, Mark. Your thoughts on Rain St. Clair being the next St. Clair?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to scroll through here to find a picture of Rain, because the day of the Ohio State camp, he was there working out, and my son was there working out. So I actually spent a lot of time, probably more time than I should have, watching the younger quarterbacks work out. And you're right. The review that day that was pretty popular from people was he looked better than his brother looked at the exact same time, which is a pretty powerful statement there to, give to a kid, because his brother was the best quarterback in the country in the class. So you're setting the bar, in a place where, okay, kid, this is the business you want to be in. Dan, you could probably pull up the picture now if you want to see Rain.
Sure.
There you go. There's him and my son at the camp together. So you get an idea of, I'll be following, as I talked to Rain's dad, Marcus, that day, I was joking that we're probably going to be standing together at a lot of camps in the next couple of years. So kind of cool to get a preview of him, but spins it, has the size, athletic ability, tracking ahead. What else can you say?
How big are those guys, Mark? You would know this for real. Don't give us the program size. Give us the size.
I was going to say, I haven't been able to lie about my son at all, because they both probably measured in about 6'1", 1.5, maybe a tad under 6'2". That hair really does them a little inch or so, or whatever, but they were real. Rain was probably maybe a half inch taller than my son. I'll give him that. And his brother, of course, is 6'5", so you know where these guys are headed.
Don't get me started on the hair. I don't get it.
The hazing at my son's team is they have a buzz cut. I think my kid is down to 5'10" now.
Oh, I love that, by the way. They used to do that's like one of those football things from back in the day that's probably frowned upon now. Everyone gathers around and shaves the younger guys' heads. I don't think you're still allowed to do that anymore. But I'll say this. I don't get the hair deal for everybody. This is a public service announcement. Just because you can grow your hair out doesn't mean you should. If you go to the state tournament for basketball, football, I'm sure you could do it, but they have helmets on. Every kid's got their hair grown out. Some of those guys look ridiculous. It just, you don't have to do it. Some of your guys, you look like you're wearing a straw hat. It looks awful. All right.
It's amazing how every generation finds a hairstyle that can annoy the older generations. Like we had some bad hairstyles in our day. The hippies had some bad, but the kids can always find a style that you just look at it and go, really? That's what's going to work for you? That's what the girls are falling for right now?
Listen,
more power to you, buddy.
Here's the reason we didn't have long hair. Now, we also weren't allowed to have water at practice back in the day when I went there, and they would put the water literally 200 yards away. And during practice, you weren't allowed to have it.
The salt tablets.
No, torture. When you didn't have a helmet on working, if you had long hair, if you made a mistake, one of our coaches would constantly talk about how you spent more time on your hair than getting ready for football. So if you made any mistakes, you were screwed. So everybody basically came to camp with a crew cut to avoid being. Alex, look at this. What the amount of broccoli heads I see in the gym, absolutely. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I didn't. And I know we're going to have 35 people talk about how Dan digresses. I really think this helped out. I needed to help the community here. And then there's Jim. I wish I still had hair. Jim? That's a good way to answer it. I think beggars can't be choosers. All right. Ryan Stray Bull. Let's take some questions here and get out of here. We have a college-sized kid over here in Salina, one of the best freshman wrestlers in Ohio last year. We'll see if he has the work ethic to get college offers. Mark, there's no way you know who that is.
I'm searching that school right now. It might be Salina.
Yep.
And I don't think I know about him.
Okay. I'll tell you this. The gym was just named. The gym was just named.
Pass along his name.
I will. We will. We'll get that. The gym was just named after the grandfather of a player in Oakwood, who's going to be the best basketball player Oakwood's ever had. Know the name, Drew Wasty. You think I'm kidding? Just wait. All right. Let's see if we can get any more questions here. And then Mark will tell us what he's doing for the weekend. Oh, he's D. Sanchez. Now, you want to talk about going for Family of the Year? We're going to watch Rain play when we come down for the Texas game. That's above and beyond. That's taking it to another level. We're not talking about recruiting the greater Houston area. We're talking about they're hitting the road and maximizing their time. Team Sanchez. Again, OKGs, our kind of guys. That's OKF, our kind of family. Your feelings on this, Mark, from Alan Saunders? Because I'm convinced we're always going to get the people who think we're getting too far ahead of ourselves. I don't know about that in recruiting, but Alan Saunders, does anyone really think the recruiting services know the best players in the 28 class? But you have to use them as an early blueprint then coaches need to evaluate. Do we really have a good sense, Mark? That was the national ranking of the Ohio kids. I thought they did pretty well for a start. Don't you agree?
I think we should go back 3 years and see who they had ranked in the class of 2026 as a freshman, and you start doing those case studies. My personal rankings, I give an A, B, C, D to kids, and I only have 3 or 4 kids with an A as a freshman because, like I said, I don't like to annoy because I've been fooled in the past. You get excited about a kid who looks good and he just doesn't grow. The weight doesn't change that much. And all of a sudden you have a kid that's been overhyped or, you know, in this day and age, you know, and it sounds so cliche to say that, but there's like 5 or 10 years ago, there weren't sites ranking 7th and 8th graders. 7th and 8th graders and 6th graders are being ranked like they're getting scholarships tomorrow. I mean, there are 6th graders that are the top 10 in the country whose parents have already bought houses and they're thinking the NIL money's coming, and it's just out of control. And it's quite frankly sad. And this may get clipped and sent to people that I'm banging on these people, but they have no idea what they're looking at that age. These kids haven't hit puberty. Usually they're real trained up by a dad, so they look just a hair or a little bit better than the other kids on the field that day, and they think that separation is going to be the same amount of separation that keeps transferring from year to year, and that's flawed logic. And you had to ask me to get this question and get my motor started on this, but I tell you what, if I was Ohio State, I would be pretty much the way they are. They don't really go after 2028 kids. Every now and then they get put in a situation where there's one that's really special, and we're going to have to do this to protect ourselves because if he is really good, we want to be on him early. But I tell you what, if you're Ohio State and you offer the wrong kid, you could be stuck with a true dog. You could be stuck with a MAC player or a good D2 player 3 years later is what could happen with some of these freshmen that just don't ever reach they don't keep the level of separation that you see initially, you know, and that's what the toughest thing is you'll watch a film and be like, this kid has separated from the group on the field with him, but that separation gets closer and closer by the time they get the senior year. And then fast forward to college, there is no more separation. So the colleges want the guys that are true separators that come in and separate from the college guys. So I am one that's kind of cautiously optimistic. I don't, like I always say, I don't want to be the downer on all this stuff, but it's my job to vet and, you know, cut through hype and cut through statistics. When a high school coach sells me on a player, that's his job. Just the way a used car salesman is going to sell me on a car. It's kind of my job to go sit in that car and take it for a test drive and be like, man, there is a little rattle back there that he's not talking about. And that's who I am in nature. And I think that if I was Ohio State, I'd be much more apt to wait longer if I could. Get the more information wins. And I'm beating a dead horse or a broken record because people I know have heard me say that but you can't wait for more information or the game's played without you. If you wait on the sophomore, he commits to Clemson and you didn't even offer him yet because you were being safe and cautious. So I get it, but that's the world we're playing in. That's the muddy waters all recruiting and analysts like me live in.
And I think that's why you're going to see Ohio State, like every NFL team, develop their style of how they use the salary cap. A lot of it's going to be used on retaining players. They're not going to upset the locker room unless the kid is a guarantee. I mean, it's not surprising. Who do you think the two highest paid players at Ohio State are this year? One's the best player in the country on offense. One's the best player in the country on defense. That's not who we're talking about here. So just so we know from Ryan Strable, we appreciate it. The Salina wrestler offensive lineman prospect, Cash Patrick, 6'5", 280. Listen, if you're a freshman and you show up to wrestle someone who's 6'5", 280, you want to feign injury. Last question. Go ahead.
I said, I'm actually watching his highlights now, and he looks pretty good. If you want to pull him up, we could give the kid a little love today. We're spreading some love to 2028 kids.
Can you point him out for us?
Yeah, he's going to come up here highlighted. But, yeah, for a freshman, he's got the size here at nose man, gets off the ball well, and he'll be a guy that if that's what you look like as a freshman, it'll be my job to come check you out. So, yeah, thanks for the heads up here. And I always appreciate heads up with kids from small schools. And what you would worry about a kid this big is that he doesn't move well, but you can tell the wrestling and his bend in his legs. He's got some spring to him. And I'm sure these aren't his best highlights of the year. This is just a one-game cut-up. But, yeah, he just got some love on the Bucknuts podcast. And I'll tell all the Bucknutters out there, if you see kids throughout the year and you want us to check them out or you want to send them my way, please help me out. I need as many additional scouts on my staff as possible because this is a mom-and-pop operation here where I need as much help as I can get.
And it is mom and pop, so these tips will take work off his wife's plate, who not sure she's the highest paid employee at Scouting Ohio. Or technically she probably is if you're going – I digress. All right, last question from Sean Duffy. Claimed he had a good question. He's right. Good morning. I heard that Notre Dame had 12 uncommitted recruits have official visits in June, and they have now landed 11 of them. What are they doing? Are they using the bag now? All right, I'm going to answer this for me, and then Mark, I'll give you the last word. And if you, which you do, know guys at Notre Dame and want to pass along a little bit of an inside vibe on that, that'd be great. Here's my vibe on it. Notre Dame recruits a certain type of player. They are a little bit different in that they don't spend as much time with guys who may be academically challenged. So I think Notre Dame does a great job of identifying guys who are probably pretty interested in Notre Dame before they got there. And then are they giving the bag? The answer to that is you're right, they do. Everybody has the bag now. To be fair, everybody has the bag now. Everybody. That's one of the main reasons it's much harder to recruit now than it was, say, 18 months ago. Is because everybody has the bag. Mark, your thoughts on Notre Dame's efficiency and overall recruiting prowess?
Being in the national championship game helps things. You know, you're in rare air, and you are perceived to be in rare air in the next couple of years. You're going to be making a run for this thing. Didn't Notre Dame get all the money for being in the national playoffs there? Wasn't there something where they didn't have to split it with their conference and they got a big lump sum? Yeah. So maybe they're putting some of that to good use. Maybe they're using their, like everybody has. Yeah. So maybe their bag's a little more padded, got a little more, juice to it than in the past. And when you said, Notre Dame has a certain type of recruit, it brought me back to the way the Catholic school recruiting was explained to me a long time ago. 70s, 80s, 90s, recruiting services, internets didn't, really recruit. So what Notre Dame relied on was Catholic schools. We're going to rely on that Cardinal Mooney in Youngstown and Ursuline in Youngstown are going to have coaches that are down there recruiting the 7th and 8th grade teams and pulling the best 7th and 8th graders in those towns to the Catholic schools. And this goes for Archbishop Moeller, Akron-Hoban, St. Ed's, St. Ignatius. And as I'm naming those schools, aren't those the powerhouses of Catholic schools, Toledo Central Catholic? And boy, if you just, the way they put it to me is if you just relied on those schools to do a good job, wouldn't the best players in every town end up at those schools? And if you went into Ohio and you were Notre Dame and you wanted to have the most success, wouldn't you just go recruit all those good Catholic boys just because that's what your brand is? We're the Catholic university, and when you come here, we go to church. And so it was a stream that just flowed right to Notre Dame through the 80s, 90s. But eventually recruiting blew up, and, you know, the internet, and you can't rely on those schools to just constantly feed you prospects forever. And I think that old school pipeline isn't as, how do I say it, robust as it may have been at one point in time. But that's the way Notre Dame recruiting always was, where their priority is, we're not going to go to the heathens or the convicts because we want a brand of Catholics here. So there's my little rant on that.
Tony Brooks, Sean Duffy, should we be a fiend? I think he means offended that Dan is out here with a hairline that is eroding in real time. I'm pretty old, and I could be a guy who's on a message board typing in all caps and making spelling mistakes. It could be that guy, but I'm not. So wouldn't you know? Last question, Mark. I lied. Look, don't sleep on Roger Staubach, by the way. Tilt up.
I see it now. I didn't see it, but now I see it. Yep.
Look who it is. Roger right there with Cal and Scotty Reynolds and Urban, my guys. So if that is a compliment. We played Summer League at Purcell Marion in the Smith League, and I would take a picture in front of Roger the Dodger every day. Roger the Dodger, literally, if I could have my son emulate anybody, it would be him. He did play quarterback as a youngster. He did wear number 12, even though we are number 4, because the Dodger. All right. Let's see here. Did you answer this and I wasn't looking? Mark, Cleveland St. Ignatius sophomore defensive end Keyshawn Brown on your radar question mark.
Yeah, I feel bad. We've been asked about him a couple times, and I'm on his huddle page now, and there are still no highlights. He has not played a varsity game to my knowledge, but he's been someone since 8th grade that has been a name that we're going to follow. I plan to get on to their scrimmage or one of their games early. I think I'm going to see them next Saturday. So if he's in there, I'll get you a picture. I'll get you some video, and we'll do our deep dive on him. But right now there's no proof that he is a guy that, you know, is an Ohio State prospect. We will have to, like I just gave the lecture, until I get proof, until I vet, it's hard to give him the love.
Mark, where are you headed this weekend?
There's a couple different scrimmages. Kent McKinley is playing Old Tangi Berlin on Friday morning. I'm going to try to get to that. There's a scrimmage Thursday night in town I have to get to because I'm related to someone who's playing, so he's ruined my Thursday night. But Friday, there'll be a handful of different places. I got to figure out where I'm going to be at Friday evening if I'm going to head down south or try to stay in Northeast Ohio. But I was looking for a Buckeye prospect to cover early on, and it's getting tricky because I have to cover some other schools too. I got to kind of spread my love out a little bit, but I'm sure you Bucknut fans, we will have the best video for the next 16 weeks of football season of what we're going to inundate you and wear you out with Buckeye photos, players, prospects, video you're not going to find anywhere else.
And there you have it. We'll be back next week with the Dean. Have a good one. Nutters of Buck.